We are live. It is 2:09 p.m. Central Standard Time in the United States, 8:09 p.m. GMT in the UK. It's Nomad Tech Project with Sam and Joe.
Hey.
Coming to you live here on the 26th of November 2023. And fun fact, this is my mother's birthday. Unfortunately, she passed away in 2020.
Oh.
So, yeah, that's what happens. So I didn't even think about it because I know it's usually around the Thanksgiving time. And I think every once in a while it happens to fall because it's the fourth Thursday of the month. So it rotates the day exactly. But yeah, so happy would have been her. I don't know. She would have been almost 66, 67. Yeah. So anyway, happy birthday, Mom. Anyways, that's awkward and weird. But what's not awkward and weird is we have a guest.
Just quickly, the only good thing about it, right? The only good thing is she doesn't have to ever watch this shit.
Right. She never. Well, actually, no. I think when wasn't doing any kind of show, and
she probably is up there cracking up.
Oh, she's probably my biggest fan. She thought I was always full of shit.
Oh, bless her.
Works out pretty good. So we have a guest in the chat and in the show. We have Manos. He thought we'd swing on by. Thank you for coming in, sir, on a Sunday and kind of last minute. So we appreciate you spending some time with us today. It's an honor.
My pleasure.
Well, let's get started first by we notice your X handle is Orange Scooter, and we always like to ask the genesis of basically you and so folks can get to know you. But I kind of I try to usually guess about those kind of things, but
you can't guess that one.
Other than the fact that you maybe had an orange scooter as a kid and you fell off of it and hurt yourself. I mean, I don't know, but then why would you want to make that your Twitter handle? So curious. The genesis and the history of that Twitter handle. It's pretty cool.
Cool. Okay. So it dates back to 2016 when I was doing my master's in London. And I was living very central. I don't know if you know City, Barbican area. Probably doesn't ring any bell to anyone outside the UK. And my university was very close, I would say within a 10-minute ride with a scooter, like you kind of guessed. And that scooter was orange. So I would always go to class with it. And everybody, at the beginning, they're like, oh, that guy with the orange scooter. And we had to create Twitter for my course, for some stuff we were doing. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go buy orange scooter. It's like what everybody identifies me, with. So I just stuck with it since then. And just.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. So now were there different colored scooters or they were all orange? You just happened to they had different colors that were available?
It was just happened to be that one on Amazon for a good deal. It was something like 70 pounds. So I was like, I'm just going to go with that one. It worked. It looked okay. So
is orange your favorite color or just literally it was because it was a good deal?
No, it was just a good deal. I couldn't care less. I just wanted something to go to class. I couldn't be bothered to buy a bike just for 10 minutes.
I'll say, so you wasn't rocking like a orange Pixel 4XL and...
right. Or orange T-shirts and orange hair. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. That was in the days before Pixel decided to advertise and let people know that Pixels were a thing. I guess when they got to the 6, they thought, maybe we should tell some people about the phones and let them know. And then surprisingly, they're starting to catch on and people are starting to purchase those. So speaking of that, what is your daily driver and iPhone, iOS, Android, the basics of like what do you rock on a day-to-day basis?
I mix things up. I have the iPhone 15 Pro Max that I'm currently using for this podcast as a live camera. But also I have the Pixel 8 Pro as my other device.
There you go.
I wouldn't call it secondary. I switch around, whenever I feel bored. But definitely when I want to have fun, I'll use the Pixel. That's for sure. Yeah. It's my go-to for, I don't know, whenever I'm back home, the iPhone is going to sit on my desk. Or just sides, and for everything else, social, messaging, you name it. I just enjoy using the Pixel more, and especially for photos. The iPhone is just the trustworthy, boring tool, I would say, which I cannot stop myself from buying always the latest one ever since the iPhone 11 series.
Yeah. So the upgrade from the 14 to the 15 for regular people that aren't get one every year because that's kind of what you do. Is it much different than the 14? Is it like, wow, this is awesome? Is the titanium what is your feelings like if you were a person who maybe had a 14? And I'm not talking about just a general person, but is it noticeable as a difference to the 14 as far as function and feel and operational?
Okay, the first thing is, okay, it's lighter. But the first impression, like the moment you take it out of the box and you start, playing around with it, it's just another iPhone.
Right.
I didn't get the wow factor that I got, with the Ultra from Samsung or with any Pixel. It's just yet another iPhone, and probably it's iOS to blame for that. And my reasoning for going for the 14 Pro Max to the 15 Pro Max, it was for the zoom camera.
Okay.
Because I love a telephoto and a good telephoto and a periscope. Like for me, the Ultra was amazing to use solely because of the 10x.
Right.
Yeah, it's great
And I
fun
was
using that.
hoping, like, okay, I'm just gonna get the latest iPhone. It's gonna have a better zoom camera. Finally, I'm not gonna use anything else. So I can also justify it in terms of money, because
Right.
our addiction, because it's an addiction. Let's face
Right.
it.
We need an
Yep.
intervention, that's for sure. I
Yeah,
can't.
definitely. Yeah, it's definitely a pricey one. So I was thinking, maybe we'll tick all the boxes. Yeah, sadly didn't. And I kind of regretted selling the Ultra, because its zoom camera is way better. It has its pros and cons, but overall as a package, yeah, I think it would have been better being with the Ultra than having yet another iPhone. But then again, when you're stuck in the ecosystem, like I said before, I was trying to connect in this stream with my iPad Pro,
Yeah.
and then you have an Apple Watch, and Fit Pro. I don't know. I'm not gonna show you all my Apple stuff, but the thing is, I
Right.
have way too many, and it's stuff like this that keep you locked into the ecosystem.
Yeah, and
So
that's another thing. And again,
yeah,
it's almost the offsetting factor for people who use an iPhone. It's like,
yeah,
yes, we know it's pedestrian. Yes, we know it's the same thing. Yes, there's no reason to get if you had a 13 or a 12, except for the telephoto. Maybe you get that. Who cares, right?
yeah,
But it's every time. That's what people mention. It's all that stuff.
yeah.
And somebody actually had a really good, and I begrudge to say that I watch TikTok because I do, because mostly I blame my wife and my daughters because they send me videos that they think are funny and stuff, and I'm like, these are not funny. But somebody actually wrote a thesis paper on like why like Apple. She didn't want to say a cult because that wasn't his, but why did they have brand? Oh, and I think it's called brand equity, right? So there's like a 6-part component. It's like marketing and brand recognition and all how they basically there are people who will use an iPhone that and they have an ecosystem, but so does Google. I mean, so does Samsung. They have ecosystems as well that work. Windows, right? you can connect your my Moto Razor, right? Yeah, you can connect it to your computer, and it's phone calls come through my computer, right? You have a Windows, your phone. But how that people who use an iPhone absolutely will not even entertain switching or trying anything else. Like it's totally locked down to them, and it can't just be ecosystem. So, what are your thoughts about like? I mean, obviously, clearly you're an Apple user, so you know how you feel about it, not just from an external point of view, but like, is it just the marketing? It can't just be that, right? It can't just be that millions of people are completely snowed and you're just
Yeah.
like completely tunnel vision into the fact that, but what are your thoughts about like that, the iOS and how Apple's approached really iOS and iPhone and iPad and that ecosystem for over a decade now?
I think they have done an amazing job with their marketing. It's something that I even studied in university back in the day. It's how they promote it, because it's all about the functionality and how everything talks to each other. But number one thing, yeah, it's definitely branding, because they give you this perception that it's cool to have that. It's what everyone has. It's what everyone should have. If your stuff need to work on a daily basis. Um, but personally, I think it's because I started building and investing into the ecosystem. So yeah, my very first actually Apple device was an iPod Mini Touch, like the second generation, and I was wowed by the unboxing experience, even the way it smelled. This whole experiential vibe, they give you.
Hmm.
And then, just by buying bit by bit into the ecosystem, this is how you get dropped. And when you learn how things work, it's kind of hard to say, okay, I'm going to sell everything now and I'm going to invest in another one. And the thing is, for people like us who are addicted to tech, it may be easier to sell everything and just move to something else, or even buy another ecosystem, everything they have. But for the other average person out there, it's not that easy. If they buy, let's say, an iPad and an iPhone and an Apple Watch, I don't see them going anywhere unless this thing stop working or something really breaks and it really destroys their experience. And
So
then when
Apple's very much
everybody,
a walled garden, though, isn't it, as well?
yeah,
So I think
exactly,
once you're in there, you're kind of
they're
stuck in
gonna
there.
make sure they keep you there.
Yep.
And also it's very easy in terms of the features. They're very limited. They're not going to confuse you like Samsung, that they have, let's say, 100 different features and settings to explore. I feel like Apple is very straightforward with what they do.
On
You open the
purpose.
box. Yeah, you open the box, you're ready to go. You don't have to tinker with almost nothing apart from camera settings that I feel the average user really misses out, and they film in 1080p. It's something that
Right.
I mentioned in the Bunch of
Right.
Phones podcast. Yeah,
Which is
it's
funny because the advertising's like, yeah, it can do 4K, blah blah, it can do this, but the
It
settings
does,
are
but you need to go to
1080p.
settings. Yeah, yeah. And you will be surprised if you have a factory reset it. You go to settings, everything is on minimum. So it doesn't, I don't know, take much space. I don't know what's the purpose behind this, to be fair, that it's not set to the best.
Well, I mean, and Samsung does it too with their display, right? It's the default is 1080. I don't know. Maybe it's because remember
Pixel as well. Yeah.
right. And I think for me, it's like whenever I test drive a new car, I always drive the most basic model of the car because you don't want to get into a situation where you drive this car and it's got all the bells and whistles and it's got leather and it's this and that, and then you realize you look at the price point and you can't hit the price point, right? And you're trying to say, well, now you're having to think in my mind, okay, what do I want to sacrifice, right? Okay, am I okay with not having a sunroof? I don't care about leather seats. You know what I mean? But if you drive the base model vehicle and it rocks, then everything else is the bonus, right? You can actually save a bunch of money because you're like, and now you're like, okay, well, I've got a couple extra, I got some wiggle room in my budget. Yeah, maybe I'll get the heated seats, or maybe I'll get the leather, or maybe I'll get the infotainment,
get the AirPods,
or get the AirPods, right? But yeah, and also, and I saw Mr. Fine Jules' comment here. Is the Mystique? It's the stores. And that's another thing too. Is their return and replacement policy. I mean, that's what's really nice if you have an issue. Like I always said, they used to have Apple stores in the mall here in St. Louis where I live. And everywhere else probably too. And then I remember almost darn near across the hall from one of them was a Microsoft store, a little smaller, and like maybe 3-4 people in it. And every time I walk by an Apple store, and I don't care if it's Monday at 11 a.m. on a work day when nobody should be in the mall, the place is
in there,
packed full of people. I'm like, what the fuck are all these people doing in here? I mean, it's like they're looking at phones and, they're looking at the watches and they're looking at this and they're talking to a Genius Bar dude. And it's like, it's either they're learning, either one, they're buying, which if they are, they might make $1 trillion a nanosecond because every store's packed. Two, are people learning about how to use their phones? Like they have classes on how to use your iPad, how to use your app. Or three is it service, right? They're getting a battery replacement or a cracked screen. And so when I say cracked screen, I mention that because that's uniquely an Apple thing. I don't know everybody I worked with, they have younger people when I could go, they all have cracked screens. Every one of them. It's like, it's not totally shattered. Some of them, one guy, the whole back.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
The whole back is like it's exploded. I'm surprised chunks are not falling out of the back of this thing. And it's just like, I'm like, dude, your glasses, I mean, it's pretty trash, man. And they're like, it's fine. And then they'll get another one and then they won't put a case on it and they'll drop it in a couple of weeks. Like, I'll just go to the Apple store because they can go into an Apple store. Like if you buy a Samsung, if you live in St. Louis, you can't go to a Samsung. There's not one in the area. So, right, you have to send it in or take it to Best Buy and they can't really fix it. Let's give you a new one. And so there's a lot to that. I think it's the brand, right? You said it's premium, it's quality. It's like the product, right? The in people have the Apple logo. And if you're in, you're in. And that it becomes a lifestyle brand for a lot of people on top of the ecosystem. So I think
definitely. The lifestyle aspect is huge. I'm seeing this like every day with people. They will not entertain anything else, like you said, because they're like, it's iPhone. It works. It's reliable. It's the best. And I'm like, is it though? Have you tried XYZ?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, most people, they just want to use a phone for phone stuff. They don't care about specs. They don't care about anything. A lot of iPhone users, in older age, they don't even know which model they have. A colleague of mine, she thought she had the 12. Yeah, she has the XR. So they just want something that works.
Right.
And
And
going back to iOS, Sam, quickly.
Yeah.
I think they don't change it too much on purpose, because Apple fans that use Apple don't want too much change. They're funny like that, I find.
Right.
Unless you're a techie, they don't want too much change.
And I guess and it goes back to the old axiom, right? If it ain't broken, don't fix it. Right. If your customers aren't clamoring for those changes, whether that fact that they know of them and it doesn't move their needle, or they're ignorant of those, like they don't know that that's a thing, right? Well, it's like I said, it's why give your customers something they don't want when it can, because remember, all those changes impact the bottom line, because now they've got the 15 with USB-C. Now they've got users in this middle ground, right, where they got some users that have their Lightning standard, right? It's going to take time for that to cycle through. It's going to take a couple generations. So now they put their consumers only because of the EU. Basically, is what it came down to. Yeah, like regulations. Again, as an American, I'm not a big fan of government regulation. I just think it's usually overreach. But I would say in this case, I'm glad that somebody stepped in and said, look, this what you're doing is aggressively consumer hostile in some cases, right? Yeah. And the fact that Apple users are so, and this is where this user, this TikTok creator was kind of leaning into this cultish, not cult, but really kind of just an unreasonable, like they can do all this negative stuff and it wouldn't matter. And they could do all these consumer things that are consumer unfriendly, like making, and I don't give a shit what anybody says. They designed those lightning cables to fail. I don't care what anybody says. If you've had a lightning cable that's lasted more than a year and you've used it every day, you must have some kind of otherworldly skill, because
I haven't broken a single one over the years.
I can tell you in my family, my daughters, they're not irresponsible, but every 6 months it starts to break and bend, and it's funny. It's almost like a joke, but no matter what Apple does when it comes to features or whatever, nobody seems to care. So to your point, Joe, I don't think Apple users really. I mean, yeah, USB-C, okay, great. But
even then, some were like, "Oh man, do we have to get a different charger?"
Yeah.
It's like it's a positive thing.
Right. So now you don't have to buy one, and I don't have a Mac, but Macs had USB-C as a connection, and
iPads as well.
Yeah. So it's like, why was iPhone the last vestige? I'm just curious. I always want to know, like, why was that the last the fort on the hill to fall? Right? Why is that? I'm always just curious.
Because dude, they sold a lot of chargers.
I believe it has to do with accessories. All the proprietary the third party ones that they all paying, a royalty to Apple. I cannot imagine being anything else besides them, being stubborn. They're making a buck from, third party companies selling accessories. And the funny thing is, when I told my colleagues and friends that Apple is changing to USB-C, they're like, what? They're changing the cable again? I was like, what are you talking about changing it again? Last time it was from...
What, the 30 pin? What was that, like, 7 years ago or 8 years ago?
It was the iPhone 4 last time. It was like so many years ago. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Oh my god. But that wasn't that like yesterday? It's like last week. What? No. It's been like a fucking decade. But okay. Like I still have my original click wheel iPod. And I still love it to this day. And it's got the 30 pin. And I still have a 30 pin charger. Of course, I don't use my iPod very often anymore. But every once in a while, first of all, I use it because one, it's kind of cool just to have it. But two, looking at some of the music I have loaded on there, go, I had definitely a different eclectic taste in music back then. It's fairly embarrassing, and I'm not going into the show. I'm going to keep that.
There's nothing embarrassing about music. That I can tell you that for sure. You can listen to death metal and Taylor Swift and be just okay.
So, I have no Taylor Swift, but there may or may not be some Britney Spears.
That was the problem, right? You didn't have no Taylor Swift,
right? I don't have. Yeah, I didn't have Taylor Swift, and also I didn't have I don't have like death metal, right? So, but it's cool, like I said. But that has a 30 pin connector, and I still have that cable in my drawer of doom. Right, I've got a drawer of cables and stuff. So,
as we're touching on music quickly, Sam.
Yeah,
Manos, what's your favorite type of music? Just randomly.
I don't know. I would say maybe rock and indie stuff. Like for instance, in December, I'm gonna go to a concert in London for Hailstorm. I don't know if you know this band. Yeah, it's rock band. Yeah. So
does it have a female singer? Is that the one I? Okay, I think I'm familiar with Hailstorm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'll check them out.
Yeah, you will enjoy it. I went last year, I think it was in Brixton, and it was just amazing. I was in the very front row. It was just, I don't know,
Yeah,
lovely.
Brixton's good.
And having, I think back then I had the 13 Pro Max, and I was like, oh, I'm glad I have that one, because if I was sitting anywhere at the back, I wouldn't be able to take any photos or videos with a lack of zoom and everything. But yeah, great experience.
So back to this, and I saw this question about a few minutes ago from Ibrahim, and welcome Ibrahim. Thanks for stopping by as always. Great, awesome dude. But he said the iOS has it gotten heavier as an operating system over time. So I have a phone I use for work. Well, I have a phone for work, and I don't do anything with it other than just the 4 or 5 work functions I have. So I couldn't speak to this at all. But to your question, what's your experience with that? I guess from iOS maybe 11 to 17. What are your experiences on the development and the iterations of iOS over the years?
I would say, and especially going year after year with the latest phone and the iOS, I feels exactly the same, with some things that you really need to dig in order to find them. Unless when you set up the phone and you like follow the tips and recommendations the phone gives you, I feel we all revert back to using the phone as we were using in the previous iOS. Let's say we're in 17, and I don't know what the new things they've added, because I haven't been bothered, to learn everything. But that's on me, and I'm a techie. So imagine if I haven't explored everything to make sure that I make, I don't know, 100% use of the features. What is the average consumer gonna do? I doubt they have, even interacted with what widgets are. They would just have every single app on the desktop on the main page, and that's it. But
That's another
personally,
prime
yeah,
example of iOS, right? So like the widgets have come out, but how many people are actually using them?
yeah, that's true.
It makes me laugh.
They're not as good as the ones on Android. I'll tell you that. And I was so excited, especially for the music one. Being able to change, go the next song, the previous one, pause, whatever. I think the only thing you can do on the Apple Music one is just pause. You cannot
Oh,
switch
really?
songs. Yeah. If someone in the chat can, confirm or deny this, it's just I remember removing it, because I could even see on the battery drain, it would show that the widget for Apple Music was consuming a lot of battery. So I was like,
Really?
what? For what
Interesting.
reason? Just for playing, playing pause. I was like,
Yeah.
screw this.
Yeah, I can't even. It's like funny because you would think the basic would be play, pause, like have a scrubber, right? So you can go back and forth in a track,
Yeah.
and then at least forward and back track, right? That's it. If your Mi Band can do it, you think a widget on iOS can do it, and it's just like that's the basic. But all you can do is just maybe play, pause. Oh, that kind of.
I can skip songs from the watch, like you said, but I cannot do it from the phone. I'm like, come on, it's so basic.
Right.
They've done that on purpose. Get yourself a watch, then you'll be all right.
Well, I'm wondering if it's one of those things that just, they put it in there and it really wasn't wholly baked. They just like, well, we got it on there. It's nobody's going to really use it anyway because it's a widget thing. We don't care. And clearly it didn't generate a lot of conversation because I haven't heard anybody even mention the fact that it had that limited functionality, or if people even use the widget at all who have iOS, which I really don't think they do.
So I want to touch on.
Go ahead, Joe.
Manos being on a podcast, a new one that's pretty cool. We was on there last week.
They actually let me show up, which is incredible because I would have thought for sure they would have keep my ass as far away from that awesomeness as possible. So that was great. Yeah.
So a bunch of phonies. Check them out. Manos is on it. Tell us about how that came about, Manos.
So actually that came about from Dan, Grand Tech. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody on that follows you guys must know him, since he's been 3 times already. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's one of our fan favorites. Yeah, absolutely. He's on the regular rotation here at the Nomad Tech Project.
So yeah, one day he just reached out to me and he was like, "If you want to be part of it," and I was like, I would be honored, because to be fair with you, we all are the bunch of phonies and some other cool dudes, part of a Telegram group where we chat on daily basis. And when I say we chat, it means I spam them on daily basis with tech stuff, complaining about the iPhone or memes, whatever you may think. But mostly talk about anything has to do with tech and mobile phones. And yeah, one day Dan, approached me and the other guys and was like, would you be up for doing this? I like, me? I'm a nobody. I'm
No,
just
you're
a
not.
dude,
No, you're not.
just a dude who buys, phones because he's addicted to tech. And yeah, so it was like, yeah, sure. Why
Manos,
not?
everybody was a nobody before there was a somebody.
Yeah. Touche. And very cheesy. But sure.
Did you read that somewhere? Because there's no way you just came.
No, I'll tell you where I got that from. I said I'm a nobody to Gadget Boy in Hawaii,
Yeah.
and he said that to me.
Oh, okay. Because I was saying, because if you came up that off the top of your head, that's probably the most epic podcasting moment of our entire career.
Yeah, it didn't come from my head. Sorry.
Well, and that's the beauty of this format, right? The beauty of podcasts, the beauty of Twitter Spaces, the fact that you don't have to have any followers. You just have to be able to record your voice, have the app, and let it rip, right? And who knows? It may be something that And we tried it. I never thought, in my 10 years ago or something, I used to listen to podcasts when it was starting to become a format. I never thought about actually making one until we were a fan. Me and Joe were part of Juan's chat, and we kind of saw. And I'm thinking, clearly, I don't have the capability of doing it as well as Juan does because he's, first of all, has a lot more voice acting and a background, and definitely
different to that anyway.
Right, and but when you see what really he was working with, which wasn't a whole lot, the barrier to entry was really kind of low.
Yeah.
I thought, what the hell? Why not? We just started doing it, and it turned into that show, and now it turns into this show. So, I mean, and here's the thing: it costs very little. It's just a little bit of your time, and and as a tech enthusiast, as I know you are, and I hate to use the word addict because you're triggering.
Yeah, I know.
A little triggering. It's a little triggering, but yeah, it's okay. Actually, it's probably pretty appropriate. Anyway, so, but that means you'll have plenty to talk about because there's always something going on, and it doesn't have to be in phones; it can be in tech. And then of course, when the tech starts to dry up, then you have this Casetify bullshit that comes up. So the entire world, right? So there's always some little apples falling from the tree, either hitting you on the head because you're walking underneath them, or you just happen to walk by and go, "Oh, I noticed a bunch of apples on the ground. What the hell is going on over here?" And then everybody gravitates to the discussion of the day or the week or whatever. So that's what's beauty about this. If you're talking about cars and stuff like that, there's always something to talk about if you're enthusiastic and you're passionate about it, and even if you're not right, and even if you're not even if you don't have a classically trained radio voice, if you're not a classically trained speaker, even if you're shy, what the hell? I mean, it's like, okay, so nobody listens to it. Well, it's like you never make any of the shots you don't take, right? You always true. So yeah, don't feel that way. I mean, I just listened to you on the phonies thing, and it was like, wow, this guy seems pretty knowledgeable. Clearly not clearly from the UK generally as a person. I mean, you live in the UK now, but I was going to say the accent indicates that you're not from the United States, or maybe you are.
Can you guess, Sam? Can you guess where?
I cannot. I want to say Eastern Europe, but that's I don't know.
So if you're British, you would know from his name, but I'm more familiar with names like that.
So, no, I'm not even going to guess because I'll feel like an idiot. So I would say definitely, if I had to take a total guess, I would say either Romania or like Bulgaria or something in that area, but probably.
Relatively close, I would say. So I'm from Greece.
Oh, okay. There you go. Manos. Well, Jesus Christ. See, I'm not even paying attention to what's going on. I mean,
the thing is, my name has 3 iterations. So the full one is Emmanuel, which nobody goes by that. It feels like so, I don't know, weird and very old-fashioned. And then there's Manolis, which is like the most stereotypical Greek, name ever.
Right.
And yeah, just go by Manos because, it's short. But the funny thing is, if anyone knows Spanish, they speak Spanish. I don't know. Manos means hands.
Right.
In Spanish. So, I always have Spanish people laughing like, Manos.
Yeah. Manos and manos. Yeah. Hand in hand. Right. So, but yeah, that's cool.
So, man
well, the thing is, if you would have said the second name, I would have been like, okay. And I thought the whole joke was that Nick was the Greek name, right? Hey, this is my cousin Nick, and then this is Nick, and then his Nick. Yeah, my Big Fat Greek Wedding. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. Because I'm like, I don't really know if that's stereotypical Greek people, because it kind of feels like it sort of kind of is a little play on that. I'm sure that all the families are a little different. Obviously, you don't want to stereotype any group of people, but it seems like you would have there's probably a dad in your neighborhood that kind of acts like that guy. Which just like
I would say the movie mostly represents the American Greeks rather than
okay,
the Greeks in Greece.
right.
But it has some things that I would say they're maybe accurate, but for older generations for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but you're not
So
gonna see
how
people.
so how long did you live in Greece before? And I said it sounded like you went to university in London, I guess, for your master's. So I guess kind of take us through that. Like, did you live in Greece until you were, and then why did you come to the UK, and why the
Yeah.
UK? Was that as an educational opportunity, or was there other stuff that drove that decision to move out of Greece?
Yeah, cool, good question. So I left Greece, I think, when I was around 23, 22. No, 22, yeah. At the moment, I'm 34, so it's been quite some time. I first came to do my undergrad in Oxford, but not at Oxford University.
Right.
There's another one called Oxford Brookes, where I studied, business with analytics. And then when I finished with that, I went to London to do my master's at City, which is part of the University of London. There I did strategic marketing and innovation. A lot of buzzwords, to attract people to pay more money.
Yeah.
And then I was working in hospitality. You probably have heard the name Intercontinental Hotels.
Oh yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was in
John Wick.
the John Wick.
yeah. I think it's a different. I don't think they have killers, but maybe they do.
No,
I don't know.
Oh, not that one.
I don't
Then,
know.
no.
I was
But they have a killer continental breakfast. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
I was working for the corporate office though. I was in brand management there. Completely
cool.
different to working in a hotel. And then after that, I've been in Oxford like since forever. Besides the year that I lived in London when I was doing my masters, and currently I work for the University of Oxford
Okay.
as part of their press. And I'm a business data analyst.
Okay.
So I left for studies and I stayed for work.
Right.
So
So
basically,
now my question was, were there just more opportunities in the UK educationally than there are in like Greece or Athens, or were you just like, I could go to university here at home, like maybe if I want to go to a different place inside of Greece, but I kind of want to.
yeah,
I feel like I want to get out of the country and just kind of like explore it and kind of get some exposure to
yeah,
some other
okay.
cultures and other things. So a lot of people,
So
I'm curious what was the driver for really the move out of Greece.
yeah,
Some people like, dude, if I stay in Greece one more day, I'm gonna lose my shit. I'm gonna flip out, right? I got to get off the island, or I got to get out of here, right? So I'm
yeah.
curious, what that as a young man, what that thought process was.
Right. So I was studying back then in Greece in university, but I dropped out because I was not enjoying it at all. First of all, it was very far from my home. And I had to take the bus in order to take me to where the metro is, to take me to the city center, to take another bus. Anyway, long story short, there was a lot of commute,
Right.
which was already ruining the whole experience. I could not really afford to rent a place closer because it felt pointless to waste money on something like this.
Right.
Also, if I were to work at the same time and in order to rent, I felt I wouldn't be able to balance out my studies, or I was just spoiled. I don't know. Pick whichever you choose. I think it was a little bit of both. And then I just did not enjoy the way we were being taught, at school because it was really just taking everything in and trying to just memorize it, and everything felt that it was, I don't know, stuck 10 years in the past, if not longer. Even though we do have some universities in Greece which are among the best in the world, but not in the thing that I was studying. I was studying marketing, and I feel Greece is very, very behind in things like this.
Mm.
I even see, the commercials they have on TV or in the streets, whatever it has to do with marketing. It feels it's very dated. Unless you're working, for a big corporation, like let's say Ogilvy or Ogilvy, however they're pronounced. Um,
Mm.
yeah, everything else feels just dated. Anyway, so I was like, yeah, I cannot take this anymore. I don't want to start something else and just live with my mother forever. So it was like,
That's fair.
I need a fresh start. I need to do something. Otherwise, I'm gonna end up being a waiter my whole life. Not that this is bad or anything. I'm not judging the people who do this. It's just I wanted something more, and I think it was mostly living from my house But instead of, moving to a different city within Greece or Athens, I just left from the country.
Right.
Uh,
Well, and then you didn't exactly go to Germany or France or whatever. I mean, you went now, and I'm curious why the UK. Was it because it was English speaking? Was it just because you thought the UK sounded pretty cool? Like, I'm curious why, for people in Europe, and I always ask this because Americans, it's a little different, right? Because they wouldn't really move to Canada necessarily for school. Maybe they would, and maybe not Mexico, right? So in North America, you only have 3 countries, right? So there's not much going on. Whereas in Europe, you've got dozens to choose
that's
from.
True.
Obviously.
That's true.
So I'm curious why the UK per se, and was that because of an opportunity, or is it just sounding good? I'm curious
I had some exposure because of friends who had already studied in the UK, and when I was I think 18, I visited a friend in the UK for the very first time in Nottingham, and it was such an amazing experience for me because basically it was my first trip alone outside the country. I've traveled before to countries, with my parents, but completely alone. It was my very first time.
Right.
And I don't know, I just love the feeling, taking, the airplane, then changing trains and all that. And it just felt so independent, even though it was just a trip. And then, following my friend around to his classes and his accommodation halls and his friends from all around the world. I don't know, I was just hooked in a way. And I felt jealous for the first time in my life, like real jealousy. Not envy, jealousy. I was like, I want this for me too, in a healthy way. And when I came back, I found the courage, to talk to my mother and say, "Hey, this looks cool. I'm not doing anything here. I don't think that I have, a good future ahead of me by, staying in this situation." And she put her trust in me, and I left, and the rest is history.
I'm sure she's proud of you, man.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So
it was a big step.
Yeah, and so now you decided to, and I guess I'm assuming you're already a UK citizen. I don't know how the citizenship.
No, I haven't taken the citizenship yet because it costs like almost 2K, and for to have a passport. Our passport is stronger than the British one anyway, so it's
right. Plus, it's cooler. It's cooler to have a Greek passport than it is a British one, or even American one, probably for that matter.
Yeah, so, I'm trying to get a Greek one, but it's not happening.
I'm sure. Yeah, maybe Monos can hook you. Maybe he knows somebody at the consulate. Right. Maybe he knows so you can go down to Athens on a trip, and maybe you can go to the British consulate, and maybe you can get yourself hooked up. I don't know. I mean, I didn't.
I think you probably have to buy land or something in order for them to give you something. I don't know. It's not as easy as it.
I'll look into it.
Well, I have to. Well, here's the thing. So I'd like to go to Greece someday because one, it's just purely for the historical, man. I mean, all these stories you hear in all these places. First of all, other than Italian, Greek's my second favorite, and because I'm telling you right now, I grew up with a buddy. His name was Nick. I know it's hilarious, right? It landed right into that stereotype. But his mother, and then there are Greek places in St. Louis to get. They have the flaming feta and stuff like that. She made authentic Greek meals, right? So tomates and spanakopita, all that stuff. And I was just like, dude, I was so hooked. I'm like, dude, this stuff is this is fire. I love this shit. And Greek food, I mean, I'll eat all of it. I don't think I'd run into a Greek meal that she made or I picked up at a restaurant that I didn't like. I love Greek food. So I know if I went, and which is funny because my brother-in-law was in the Air Force. He still is. He's getting out in a few years, maybe next year. He was stationed in Crete, and he's totally a picky eater. Like I'm like, you're there, you have all the access to all this like dope food, and you're eating like ham sandwiches and shit.
No,
he just is not into it. I'm like, dude,
it's amazing food.
Dude, if I went to Crete and Greece, dude, I would be 500 pounds because I would just eat constantly. It'd just be crazy. And then he took a picture of like where he was at. It looked like a resort. It didn't even look like an Air Force base. It was crazy. I'm like, and it was so yeah, I love Greek cuisine. And also it seems like the only place I can go historically that isn't under some kind of war or attack or invasion. I wanted to go to Chernobyl. That's a little dicey right now. I'd like to go eventually to the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Wailing Wall, but yeah, some stuff going on right there in the Middle East right now. It's a little kind of bad stuff going on there. So it's like everywhere I want to go to expose myself to all these great historical things, except Greece.
Please don't expose yourself, Sam.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. But I'm just saying, it just seems like, I mean, from a historical perspective, I would just love to just walk around Athens and just see stuff and just realize the city has been around for not just hundreds of years, but thousands of years. It's crazy to even think about that.
Miles, from your opinion, right? Greek food in the UK, is it okay? Is it good?
Look, if you wait, did you ask about the British food or the Greek food in the UK?
The Greek food in the UK.
Oh, okay. Actually, the scene has changed a lot, especially in London and Oxford, where I live. In the past, I would say 5 years, it has improved massively, especially our street food, souvlaki. I don't know. I have found a place here in Oxford with some guys who used to work close to where I live in Greece, and they make it exactly as home. So I'm so
Oh, okay,
happy.
nice.
It's just the price when you compare it, because for a wrap in Greece, I would pay 250 euros, which is approximately £2, or let's say, I don't know, like less than $2. No, sorry, almost $3. And I don't know, it's just here it costs 750 or 8. So as you can imagine, I'm like, come on, are you joking?
I
£8?
could have got
Like,
3 at home.
yeah,
Well,
like,
on
come
top of that,
on.
it's not. I mean, now if it was £7 and it was actually really close to what you get at home,
Yes, at least that is.
maybe that makes it a little easier to swallow. Part of the pun.
Yes.
But if it's like substandard food is not as good, and it's also twice or even 3 times the price, I mean, I'd probably walk away from that too. That's
No,
crazy.
but I get it. They have different costs, with importing stuff as well. Okay, I'm not delusional. I didn't expect it, to be the same price. But at least the scenery has changed a lot. But there are also, your pretentious stores in London. Sorry, it's not stores, restaurants where they sell. I don't know how they call them. With deconstructed, like all this fancy
Oh,
gourmet
yeah.
stuff, and they something that you would buy in Greece for, let's say, less than €2, they would sell it to you for £20 for like a small
Yeah.
salad that fits,
Greek
something like
fusion
this.
food as well.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
love
Right.
fusions.
some
Right.
silly stuff.
Yeah.
Right. It's just that they're just saying fusion because they can add an extra like £10 to it just to make it.
Yeah.
It sounds real fancy, right?
See, there's a Greek restaurant I tried in London, which I really liked. It was many, many years ago now. It's in Primrose Hill, called Lemonia.
Oh, I've heard of it, but I've never been, to be fair with
Yeah,
you.
it's very good. I don't know if it still is, but yeah, when I went, it was good.
So
If you
that
ever,
begs the question: if you can't like take away or carry out or go to a restaurant, do you still make a lot of like those dishes? Do you cook a lot? Do you not cook a lot? And if you do you go and make your own dishes from home, things that you're used to cooking, or maybe things that your mom had taught you how to make? Just because it's like I want to have a good meal, I'd rather just go to the store and grab the stuff and just maybe make it at home, just because it might be cheaper. Obviously, it is,
yeah.
and you may have a skill to do it.
No, I do cook a lot. I had to, because I was single for many years while living here. So I had to eat something besides, I don't know, ready meals or takeaways.
There's only so many
And
of them you can eat, right?
oh,
Right.
it's amazing. The selection here is insane. In Greece, we don't have that many options. I'm very grateful, for being introduced to so many, different cuisines, especially Thai food
Oh
and
yeah.
Indian. I don't know. I'm so happy. In Greece, these things are not popular.
It's so multicultural here, isn't it? So
Yeah,
you get a
100%.
bit of everything.
But personally, yeah, I cook Greek stuff. Recently, I made, we call it fasolakia, which is like these long beans. I'm not sure they go like garden beans or broad beans, whatever the name is. I'm not 100% sure. And it's basically in the pot with some potatoes and chopped tomatoes and carrots, and just let it, boil, become like a broth, soupy type of thing until
Yeah.
everything gets, absorbed by the vegetables with a lot of olive oil. Yeah, we
Of
Greeks, I don't
course.
know, we're just
Oh yeah.
obsessed with olive oil. And
Yeah.
I'm a cliche when it comes to this. My family, we actually produce our own olive oil.
Oh
Oh,
wow,
there you
that's
go. Even
cool.
better.
Yeah, sadly, not enough to make a brand out of it. Regretfully, maybe one day, who knows?
Right.
Yeah. So
But you
when
can
I cook,
market it, so
yeah.
Yeah, if the family wanted to get their production up to speed, I definitely think they could leverage your skill set into
absolutely,
marketing
man.
and brand
Oh, for
management for
sure.
sure.
It's not the lack of willingness. It's about not having enough to produce.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
We just don't have enough land. It's enough to make like few tons, but it's just, let's say, would be enough for just one small village.
Well, Manos, when I buy my land in Greece and get my passport, I'll let you guys use it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Right.
And speaking of land, where we have our land, where with the olive trees, I have some land. Yeah, maybe we can sort something out.
Yeah.
Right. You guys can work on it. You might want to tell Lauren and your daughter that what the plan is for their relocation to Greece. They may have some input about that. I can tell you we would visit.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah, well, clearly, and so it's kind of interesting to see that, and that's why we like having all sorts of people on the show, because they're not just talking about tech, right? And that's kind of cool because but it's interesting to see the background, and I'm more fascinated about the why people get into tech, because you would think, Greece isn't a country that you think of that's really, clearly there's not many tech companies that are like homegrown Greek companies, right? So, and then so the fact that somebody comes from that country, has all this exposure and this interest in tech. So like, what kind of, what kind of phones, I guess, I'm assuming in Greece, is it mostly Android, because it's, it's a country that maybe isn't like, it's not India, it's not the United States, it's not one of the bigger countries in Europe as far as like tech engagement. So, how did that start, like your tech path in Greece? Because you were there till you're almost, you said what, 23? That's it'd be different if you left and you came to the UK when you're like 9 or 8, right?
Yeah.
But you were there up until like 10 or so years ago. So how did your interest in tech formulate as a young child and a teenager and a young student before you came to the UK?
I have to thank for this my parents a lot, because when I was little, my father would always, bring me all sorts of consoles. Like I remember the Super Nintendo, the Sega, the handheld one, which I think he brought this like from outside of Greece, because we didn't have those things back then. And then, PlayStation 1, 2, 3, but everything. For me, I think my tech enthusiasm started with video game consoles.
Okay. Yeah.
Snap. I think mine would start there as well.
Yeah.
Right.
And then computers. I remember building my first computer. How was I? A teenager, because I had a friend who was like obsessed about laptops, and he introduced me to those things. And then, I became obsessed with that as well. But with smartphones per se, I think that also links to my parents, because they were getting the latest, I don't know, Nokias or Ericssons back in the day. Like I remember even the huge Motorola. Yeah, my father had a huge Motorola, with the antenna, and I was always like, I don't know, I was like, what is this? And I remember myself always, grabbing those, trying, to see, how does this work, and then every year they were getting a new one, because of work, and was exploring it, and eventually I got myself my very first own device, which was the Nokia 3310.
Yep.
The brick. And I remember being so, I don't know, inspired by the things you could do, especially with the SMS, how creative you could become with all these things. And then almost every other year was getting a new one, because my mother, she would get the latest one. She would pass me her previous one.
Right.
And the first one that really made an impact, I would say, was the Nokia. I can't remember the name, but it had a camera at the back. And also on the side, it had play and pause for music or for skipping tracks. You could listen to the radio. And, they were just tech was feeling exciting every year with those phones. Or there was another Nokia where it was like a slide one. You could listen to the radio through it.
Right.
Or there was the Engage. I don't know. They just felt like, some futuristic toys. And then with the more modern stuff, I remember when I saw the iPod Touch. The first time
you were talking about that. That seemed like that was your first. I think it was your first Apple device, wasn't it? Not was it not?
Yes, that's true. Not the iPod Touch, the iPod Mini. It was called Mini. It was a blue one,
right?
With the wheel, and it was just amazing. I think it was 6 gigabytes or 4. I don't know. It was something tiny.
Yeah.
And I remember, hooking it.
I can put 23 whole songs on this thing. This is great, right?
And I remember we had LimeWire back then. If you guys remember LimeWire, downloading a song forever.
Absolutely, yeah, buddy. LimeWire, like the old Napster LimeWire days. Oh yeah, but these kids don't know now.
No, they have no idea how good they have it. I would put like 5 songs to download, and I would go out for an hour to wait for this song to download.
You walk around in the yard and say, "Ooh, okay, I'm gonna stand on this stump. I'm not moving for 20 minutes. I gotta hold it because I'm getting good signal here. I'm actually getting a couple." Yeah, the struggle was real back then to get the music, man. That's for sure.
Yeah. And then, from the iPod mini to the iPod touch. And I remember when they unveiled the iPhone 3G, I was like, wow, that is insane. I want this. But of course, it was so difficult to get one. I remember going to the store because I was already working back then. And I was like, okay, I saved 2 months' salary. It's okay. I'm not gonna do anything else for 2 months. But at least I'll
Right.
get the phone. Um, but unfortunately, everything was sold out, and I had to wait until Christmas. And imagine that was released in September.
Right.
And this is when I got actually my first Windows mobile phone, the HTC, the
Oh yeah.
touch, the HTC Two Touch 2 Pro, something like that, with a slide hidden keyboard. And I remember, I think probably I got hooked with phones ever since then, because after that one, I got an LG G3. From the LG G3, I went to an iPhone 4, or vice versa. I cannot remember the order. And then it was the iPhone 6, uh, Samsung Note 8, Note 10 Plus, and then every single freaking iPhone from the 11 series until now. And the Pixels and the Ultras. Yeah. But to go back to your point you made about Greece and how it works there, it's not easy. Yes, most people, you would see them, they would be getting a budget smartphone, like let's say Samsung A series, or
Right.
if they're gonna go for the S series, they're gonna go for the basic one, like an S23. You would see a lot of Xiaomi's. What else you would see? And if you see iPhones, they will be like, from previous generations, and they're gonna try to go for used ones, because
Right.
stores, let's say, even to this day, an iPhone 11, you would see it for, let's say, 400 euros,
Oh,
which is
really?
ridiculous. I wouldn't
Yeah.
spend even half on it.
Yeah, the
Um,
second-hand market for Apple is pretty
yeah,
strong.
it's just insane.
Mm.
Um, like a friend of mine, he has been with Androids for many, many years now, especially with OnePlus Nord.
Mm.
And finally, this year, he pulled the trigger and he went with an iPhone 15 Plus, and
Right.
he's so happy with it. But it took him years. I remember him asking me for iPhone ever since the iPhone 12 series. But they're so expensive, and with the salaries and the expenses people have in Greece, it's not easy. It's not
Right.
easy, even
Well,
for
I knew years ago, I know they were having some financial issues in the government, right? They had some
yeah.
austerity programs,
Mm.
and Greece was really struggling financially, and they having to, talk to the EU and stuff like that. So, yeah, I was just curious because that's a country that, I don't hear much about. We obviously know about, tech spaces in like China and India and the United States and England, the UK, but you don't really hear Greece very often. So I was just kind of curious how what people mostly buy in that area, and like, I mean, because
Yeah.
again, it's a country they don't hear very much about when it comes to tech, and that was just mildly curious about that.
And
So
people don't really buy secondhand phones in Greece. They don't trust them. They want to get something brand new,
okay,
even if it means it's not the latest and greatest. They have more faith into something out of the box because they will have the
Yeah.
warranty. And
right,
also in Greece, what's horrible is we're not as lucky as we are in the UK, where I can buy whatever I want. I have 2 weeks to send it back in case I don't like it,
right,
or let's say there's something wrong with it. I have 30 days to send it back and get a full refund of what I bought.
right.
So in Greece, if you buy something, you open it and you don't like it, tough luck. You're stuck with it.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. I didn't think that was a thing.
Yeah.
Now is that just in tech, or is that in general retail? Like anything,
It,
let's say you buy a toaster, or let's say you buy a blender or a mixer, and it's like, oh, okay, I didn't really, I mean, I guess, is that across the board in retail across Greece
I
altogether?
think it's across everything. Yeah. In order for them to replace it or do anything, you really need to push. Like, I remember specifically an issue that I had with a monitor,
Mhm,
because I bought my mother the Mac Mini, and the
mhm,
monitor that I bought her, it was not compatible because there was some distortion, some lines, something was off. And I
Mm.
took it back to the store and say, hey, this doesn't work with my machine. There's nothing wrong with my machine. There's nothing wrong with your monitor, but please, can you take it back, refund me my money, and I can get something else. I found, from a list which monitors work with the Mac Mini.
Right.
And he was like, "Oh no, now that you opened it, I cannot take it back. How I'm gonna sell it? Blah blah blah." Long story short, he gave me store credit,
Okay.
but less than what the monitor was worth. Let's say the
Wow.
monitor was worth
Oh.
$100. He gave me back, let's say 70.
Right, and only store credit, so you had to spend that back in his own store.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, was that like a large chain store, or was it more like a boutique, like a sole proprietor owns a store?
It was a smaller store. It is a chain, but it's a small one. But still, even in a bigger one, because I went to a competitor, like a very established one, Joe, that would be like our version of Carrie's PC World.
Okay.
And I got a monitor from there, which I didn't even open. I didn't even open because I wanted to make sure that, from the other store first it would work before doing anything, hasty. And then I take it back to get a refund because I didn't open it at all. And they were telling me, "Oh, it's a company policy not to give refunds. You need to keep it." But the thing is, I'm very familiar with how the law works, especially
Okay.
European law with products. And I was like, "What are you talking about? I haven't opened it. There's nothing wrong with the device. I want my money back." They're like, "Okay, best we can do is, I don't know, store credit." I'm like, "No, I live in the UK. I don't need store credit. I don't live here anymore." And long story short, I asked for the manager. I even showed them on the phone, this is the legislation. You need to give me my money back. I don't care what you're saying. And they're like, they were looking at me. Oh, he knows. So
Like
He
basically,
knows.
he
yeah,
cracked the code.
Oh,
He cracked
he,
the code. He knows,
he
right?
knows, the laws and how things work. But the thing
Damn
is,
it.
they get away with stuff like that with people who have no idea. You go there, they tell you it's store policy, company policy, whatever. You're stuck.
Yeah.
Now,
Uh,
I'm curious. Is that
hmm.
it almost sounds like a cultural thing in Greece,
Oh,
where
definitely. There is
okay,
definitely a mixture of cultural and, just, I don't know, using loopholes, whatever you want.
Like man,
And
I've
I
said, like,
hadn't.
if it's second
I can
hand,
see
people
to
don't
see
want
some
it.
guy at some store in Greece go, "What do you mean I can't sell it? What am I going to do with this thing?" Like, and he's doing all
They're
this
not
stuff.
Italian.
No, I'm just saying. I don't know. Well, I'm sure, but Greek people get down with being
Oh,
animated,
yeah.
especially with. But he's like, "Well, how can I sell this? I'm stuck with this thing," and you're basically,
Yeah.
So it's funny how they basically kind of lean on the fact that people maybe aren't consumer savvy and they don't know the laws of
No.
the EU and they don't know consumer protections, and they basically screw them over. And it's just like, "Oh, okay, well, here's a store credit, but I'm not going to give you it for the amount. I'm only going to give it to you for 70% less." I'm like, I'm getting fucked twice. First of all, I don't get the money back, then I get less of store credit. It's just like, it just goes to show you that thankfully the EU is really big on, and that's part of the reason why they're driving these changes with Apple, right? Is because, which is
100%.
interesting because I thought
Kicking
for sure.
ass.
Well, I thought they would just be okay. Well, for the EU, here's your EU units. Fine, we'll comply with EU, but everything that ships to the EU is going to be USB-C. Everywhere else in the world is going to be Lightning. But then
I'm sure they crunched the numbers though, and it was like,
yeah, it's not worth it.
Well,
but they did it with a SIM card. With a SIM card that the US, you guys don't have a SIM slot anymore, but here in the rest of the world, we
eSIMs,
do.
yeah. Right, exactly, and that's why a lot of people still like to, who aren't in eSIM, they'll like to get the European or Canadian or whatever versions because they still have SIM cards. Whereas the United States, they're all eSIM. Which I don't have an eSIM device. I heard they're kind of.
We're not ready for eSIM to be mainstream yet.
And especially if you're like a
that.
person like us that switches a lot, it sounds like a complete utter nightmare to manage that.
I would hate it, to be fair with you, because I switch my SIMs all the time. And I've read Twitter stories from, even big guys, how much of a challenge it is to switch their eSIM around. So I was like, no.
You can be on the phone for hours.
And best friend of the show, Shark Fan, he's in the chat. He also says in Russia, and they have the same kind of situation where they basically like, forget about it. You cannot return. Forget it. You're stuck with it. You bought it. You don't like it. Tough shit. You're on your own.
Tough luck. And what I want to say about this as well is, let's say I buy a product, a TV from LG, Samsung, you name it, and there is an issue with a TV. The store is going to tell me, "Oh, tough luck. Contact Samsung. We cannot do anything about it."
Yeah, the warranty's with them. Go to them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they will say the warranty's with them. Go figure it out with them.
Yeah.
Oh, what a lot of fun. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. I love shopping in Greece.
Absolutely. Well, if you're looking for the food, you're good. But apparently, technology and tech, and you might.
See, if I was in Greece, I would just eat loads of food, man. That's it.
And just walk around and enjoy the people, enjoy the food, enjoy the scenery, and just enjoy the culture.
I'd have an Samsung A34 and eat loads of food.
And to give us some credit to Apple, and the situation that I had in Greece. I had an issue with my AirPods, so I contacted Apple while I was in Greece because I was gonna be there for about a month, and I told them, hey, I have an issue with my AirPods because they have official representatives there, retail shops. And they told me, yeah, you can just drop it to any shop there. They will check it. If something wrong, you'll give you a replacement or they will fix it for you. And it was so seamless, even though I was in a country where they don't have official stores.
They've got a support app as well, Apple. Like one of my colleagues has used it, and it's actually very good, the support. I'll give them that.
Yeah, the support is insane. Like they will always try to, find a solution for you. And for me, yeah, that was impressive that I was in Greece, which we don't have Apple stores. We don't have big retail stores like in the UK. And they were like, yeah, take it there. They will fix it for you or they will give you a new one. Right. It was with the AirPods Pro.
I have to second that, the support issue, because my friend had an older iPhone. It was at least a couple of years old. I can't remember if it was a 5 or a 6. I can't remember. And he washed it in the washing machine, right? It was in his pocket and he washed it, smoked it, tried to do the whole thing, it was gone, right? And if I didn't go with him to the Apple store, if he would have told me the story, I would have called him a liar, because there's no way this happened. Because it happened in front of my face, so that's why I can tell you this happened. So he walks in, he has just the phone. He walked into the store, and I said, "You're not going to tell them you washed it. They're going to tell you go fuck off. Like, they're not going to fix that. They're screwed, dude. He's going to get a new one." He's like, "Well, I mean, we'll see what happens." He walked in, found a Genius guy, and literally handed it to the guy. I said, and he told me exactly what. He didn't lie. He said, "Yeah, I had it in my pocket. It was on. I washed it. It's fucked." The guy said, "Oh, okay. And you bought it here?" He goes, "I think I bought it here, but I can't remember. I definitely never seen it. It's been a couple of years, right?" He's like, "Oh, okay, no problem." And I'm not, again, I don't know if this guy got fired for this. I don't know if this is the way they do it now. He literally walked in the back and grabbed another iPhone, and it wasn't the same one. It was an upgrade. And he handed it to him, and I was like,
"See, I think that's abnormal. I don't think that."
Oh yeah, I know it's. I'm just saying, but I mean, but even that would have happened nowhere on earth. The fact that it happened in an Apple store, but I was like, but did
you guys like run out? Like,
no, I just looked at them. I was like, dude, I can't believe what's happening right now. This guy's literally giving you a replacement, and he doesn't even know if you. I don't think you bought it. He goes, "I don't remember. I may have."
That's the best bit. Did you buy it?
I couldn't believe it. It was like he just handed the phone, and he's like, "Do I have to sign something or whatever?" He's, "Nah, yeah, I'm just going to give me your old device, and we'll go ahead and put it back, and then we'll." I was like, wow, what the hell's happening, right? So clearly, that seems to be an outlier, and I'm not going to identify that. Well, he's probably gone, and I don't even store even there anymore. But it was crazy. But it seems like the story I've heard on Apple support when it comes to their devices and customer support, that it's you just take them, and if you have an issue with an iPad or AirPods or whatever, you take it there, and especially if you have the Apple Care, it's really. I mean, it's almost kind of comical how easy it is. You almost think that there should be more of a headache, and it's so seamless. It's like, no. And I think that's a lot of it. I mean, that's, again, to somebody's chat earlier, they had said that it's about the relationship. It's about the experience, and Apple has capitalized on that and really has created essentially it's like a snowball, right? It's rolling down the hill. Now it's a big, huge ball. And then there are people who, like I said, you could give them all the feature sets and better cameras and better this and better that, and they are just absolutely not interested just because of ecosystem and support and everything else. It's just
the support. I don't know. For me, crazy. I would say it's the number one thing. And I have stories from both Samsung and Google that I left pissed with what I encountered. Maybe that's a conversation for another time. I don't know if we're running out of time or anything. But Apple, they're just so good when it comes to this. I had an issue with my iPad mini, and I phoned them, and they even told me themselves that if I have an issue with it and it's not fixed by I don't know, their technicians or whatever, I can actually invoke my European consumer rights law, where it basically says that if there's nothing with the device, if there's something wrong with the device but it hasn't been caused by me, they will replace it for me for free, even out of warranty. And I was amazed that the representative told me that. I was like, no other company would do this.
No.
It was just insane, because he could see that I was frustrated because I think I replaced 3 of them and I had the same issue. Whenever I was using the Apple Pencil, you would see like a ripple going under the screen, and it was just a hardware defect with the first batch or whatever
Like maybe the digitizer wasn't working right or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, whatever the way it was aligned the screen, I don't know, when you were touching with the Apple Pencil, you would see like a ripple as if the display is not attached very well. I don't know what was wrong exactly. And it was always at the same spot at the top right corner. Everywhere else it was fine. Anyway.
That'd be frustrating.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. But we are unbelievably, and this is why I love this show and I hate this show. I love it because you sit there and you get into a role, you start talking. It's already been an hour and 5 minutes. It's crazy. But Manos, absolutely, we would love it as long as your schedule affords it. We always love having people come back on because we have lots to talk about. Yes, the S24 series is coming out. We got other things going on.
Many things, yeah.
Yeah, so we always, and that's again, like I said, that's the beauty of tech. I don't have to really worry about coming up.
So maybe right. Just an idea. We'll get the whole of a bunch of phonies on, all the bunch of phonies on.
Yeah, and we might, and I was gonna say we have the ability to have more than just a few on. We could have kind of a whole big group chat. It'd be kind of fun, like a regular good old live stream, like Gigi and all of our fans and Barry, all them. They get these big, huge, like 6 and 7 person live streams. So that might be kind of fun. We've never really done something like that. There are some challenges there, but that would be fantastic. I'd love to have all the phonies on and just have one big wow. Absolutely, it would be great. And again, you're always welcome, and thank you so much for coming on. And
my pleasure.
We will definitely be reaching out because we always like having really great conversations and having really great people on, and it's just been a fascinating conversation and really good to finally meet you, sort of face to face, but at least can't see. And he's got great hair. He said he's cutting it, by the way. Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I'm almost 50, and I've never had hair anywhere near that, even when I could grow the stuff. And
you did, Sam, on your chest.
And on my face. And speaking of that, is everybody's still got a beard. Mine's the one that's got a lot of gray in it. I think because I'm an old guy. It's probably so.
I'm getting a few random white hair every now and then.
Yeah, Joe's starting to get it right here on the chinny chin. Yeah, right here.
Yeah, I have one. Sometimes it comes here, another one here, another one there. But I have more here. Like, go away.
Yeah, okay. I got a reputation uphold. I got to look, man. I can't look like an old guy.
I'm only 34. I don't want white hair. Go away.
Right, exactly. I didn't start getting the gray in my beard until I was probably like early 40s maybe, and I don't have many on my head, but yeah, it's what happened with two older daughters and a crazy job. They'll do this too.
Yeah, I'm feeling that already.
Right. Oh yeah, she's what, 3.5? Wait so she's like going to like high school, and you just be like,
kill me.
Okay. Yeah, it's just like I love you to death, but it's like some real quickly. This I got another TikTok. It was a lady. I think she was Northern Irish or something like that. She's like, "How can you love children at the same time we'll punch them in the face?" It's like you really, you talk to them, you're like, "Oh, great," and then it's like the next second you're just like, "I want to throw you out of a window." It's like, what's going on? And it's like, and then they say, "I love you, Mom," and then all that goes away and it resets and you're back to loving your children. It's such an interesting dichotomy being a parent. I'll tell you, it's a challenge. I guess. And then you think when they get to be 22, they'll move away. No, not so much. They're still hanging out. So, but yeah, Mouse, thank you so much for.
Sam's changed room about 4 times.
Well, yeah, because then they take over my room. Then I painted it and they took it over. It's fine. You know what? As a dad, when you have this kind of folks, you got to be kind of flexible. You got to kind of roll with it. It's all
you have to be flexible. That's for
absolutely.
Sure.
But Manos, thank you so much. And again, please, we'd like to reach out to you, have you come on. And yeah, I think it's a good idea, Joe, to have all the phonies on. Yeah. That would be fantastic. We need to get that set up, and if Dan and all them in the chat. Again, such a great conversation, and again, a privilege and a pleasure to finally actually meet and talk to you face to face. It's been an
likewise. Before we go, Manos, where can everyone catch you online?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, sorry. Say again. I lost you there.
Your social links or whatever. We're gonna make sure we put those in the show notes. Okay. That way we can direct some.
If you want to shout them out as well.
Just mostly active on Twitter, to be honest with you, at orange_scooter. So yeah, I don't use Instagram that much, to be fair. I upload some of my favorite pictures, but that's about it. I'm not really that active.
That's another thing we need to do is we didn't even really touch on your photography chops and that. So that's definitely want to keep that nugget for the next time we have you on, hopefully pretty soon. And we'll go through all that because I'm really curious because it seems like you have a really good photographic experience.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
And so yeah, we'd love to expound on that more and talk about that because that's something that definitely was a lot of people in the chat really would resonate to for sure. Yep, definitely. And Barry put in the chat. There you go, right there, folks. So if anybody's paying attention, there is the @. I'll make sure that I'll drop that in the show notes as well. And I'll post this other chat. I actually forgot again to post the show last week. Thanksgiving, I guess. I don't know. I'm a moron. Anyway, so right, exactly.
One last thing. This was sponsored by Casetify.
Absolutely. No, it was not. And also, just remember, we do have a YouTube channel. It's the Nomad Tech Project YouTube channel. Go check out. We also, we didn't even mention 10,000 subscribers, folks. I know. Look at that. That's awesome. So congratulations to Lenny and crew. Great job. And we just love being a part of it. And like I said, so go check it out and throw a sub and tell all your friends. But yeah, 10,000 was awesome. Good time. And like I said, and we are not sponsored by Casetify. I'm curious to see how this is going to go. I'm curious how the lawsuit's going to go because I think Casetify might want to settle out of court because I think they're going to get their ass kicked. But hey, we'll see how that goes. But anyway, again, Manos, thanks for coming on and spending some time with us on a Sunday. We appreciate it. And Joe, any final thoughts before we adjourn for the day, my friend?
Yep, check out the phonies. Enjoy your tech.
Yeah.
Have fun, yeah.
Peace.
Absolutely. Well, for myself, for Joe, for Manos, thanks for coming into the Nomad Tech Project with Sam and Joe. We'll be back next Sunday. Don't know if we have a guest lined up exactly. We'll keep that.
Galen's Gadgets.
Yeah, Galen's coming on. So absolutely. So, yeah, it's going to be a good time.
Guy.
Another former and also a fellow St. Louisan. So we can now talk about something that we can have a chat about that. So Galen's a good dude, and we'll talk about a Snapdragon Summit situation and everything else he wants to talk about and catch up with Galen. It'll be a good time. So we'll be back on next Sunday, same time, same channel. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy your tech. Be excellent to each other. We'll catch you next week. See everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Oh man, I went.
Be straight.